What a delight. Especially the front row right here. My gosh. Vera Franzese, Carol Franzese, Betty Calhoun, June Cullen, they were all here from the beginning. Thank you, ladies, for being here. '90 looks pretty good. Yeah, well, I hope you get there with the rest of them. We have a lot to celebrate here today, and it goes far beyond the Squires and the Pages on-field success. The monument that we're going to unveil honors that success, but we hope it's also seen as a gift from a grateful group of alumni to the community and to the people who supported us so heartily as kids, to the people who made it all possible. This monument, a decades-long dream for some of us, came to be in typical Squires fashion, through sheer determination and dedication to achieving a goal and refusing to be told no. Former Bugle player and County Court Judge Dennis Morris helped steer this effort. Our chair, Mr. Morris.
That's my brother, Roundhead, by the way. Okay, well, Steve said some years ago, Steve had an idea, and some other people had an idea to have a Squires monument. And, well, apparently, for whatever reasons, that was apparently not the right time, or maybe the right place, or whatever. But last summer, Judge Spina heard about a corps from Massachusetts that had... All right, we're gonna lean right in. Yeah, this is one of those touchy mics. Last summer, Judd heard about a corps from Massachusetts, I think, that had placed a monument on their practice site. And he asked a few of us if we had any idea what it would take to make something like that happen for the Squires. And an ad hoc committee, that's Latin for seriously disturbed, was formed. The first question was, where should it go? Alumni Field is pretty different today than when we rehearsed there. So why not have it in front of the courthouse where we always spent Memorial Day? And for some reason, I was told that I was the one that had to ask the county legislature for permission. So I went to former county administrator Tim O'Hearn, and he graciously guided me through the process. And I also want to thank, we have current county administrator Fonda Cronus here today. Here he is, yes. And Jim Howell is also here today, and Jim gave us a strong verbal backing at the legislative meeting, and the legislature approved the process unanimously last November, I should say. Yeah. The next task was to come up with a design, and we asked Dave Herzig of George Orr Memorial Company to help show us what was possible. And some of you know Dave is the son-in-law of Carl Isley Sr., one of the Squires founders. His desire to make this monument special will be evident to you in just a few minutes. Dave and Sharon's son, John, did most of the labor in engraving and bringing the artwork to life. So if you see them, shake their hands. The design was a challenging process, but after 3 months of debate, the final version was enthusiastically approved. Now, how do we pay for this? That was the next question. Some of us were kind of pessimistic that the funds could be raised, but after all, a letter went out to the Squires alumni, and to our utter shock, in less than 10 days, the whole project was completely paid for. And I would say thank you to all of you. So, 40 years after the final chord, the last drum roll, and the last rifle toss, the Squires proved that they could win again.
God, I love the trucks and the motorcycles. It's so special. So this is how we got here, but it all started out in the fall of 1964. Notices went out, announcements were made in school that there was a drum and bugle corps for boys starting up. It was just us guys in the beginning. We started learning our left foot from our right. Uh-oh. We started learning our left foot from our right in the American Legion Hall, upstairs, pounding that floor until we thought it would fall down. Then the drums and bugles arrived. Oh, what a glorious noise we made. Chuck Calhoun, Carl Isley, and Vern Alling had given a bunch of kids and this community a tremendous gift. Little did they know then what would happen. So us kids, bursting with pride, made our way up Franklin Street, all the way from the lakefront, that long, torturous march that felt like 10 miles. It was Memorial Day 1965. It was our first public appearance. We were blowing our heads off, the drummers banging away as we struggled to stay in step and keep our line straight, ending up in this very spot. Parents were in tears by the time we got here. Maybe they were that proud, or maybe we were that bad. Misters Calhoun, Isley, and Alling were no doubt breathing a sigh of relief. We hadn't totally fallen apart. We made it here to this very spot where we would launch every season thereafter on Memorial Day, on this very spot that is so special to this community for so many reasons. The Squires came of age that day in 1965. We also learned that the road to success was no easy path. And that is where my fellow charter member and our Corps historian, Judd Spina, picks up a most unlikely story. Judd? Plug the mic.
First, all I can say is wow. Can you hear me? Okay, great. All right, you Squires, listen up. But seriously, it's just great to see everyone. I'm going to pick up the story actually by backing up a few years. It was about 92 years ago, about 4 blocks from here, that way, the American Legion and the Boy Scouts started a drum and bugle corps. That may seem unique, but it was actually pretty common following World War I. Drum Corps was sweeping the country. There were literally thousands of corps, and in 1930, Watkins Glen got swept up in the movement. They were called the Legion Cadets, and they did well for themselves, placing as high as second in state competition. They also took part in 2 national contests. Sometime in the 1940s, the war years, 2 Watkins Glen boys joined the cadets, Carl Isley and Chuck Calhoun. Both played bugle, and they caught the drum corps fever. So much so that after they finished high school and college and served their country, they teamed up with Vern Alling and decided to start another corps in the fall of 1964. That was us, the Squires. As Steve said, we were on the 2nd floor of the Legion Hall, and shortly after that, practice for us was up and down these streets. As Steve said, learning how to march, stay in step, play a bugle or a drum all at the same time. Everyone in town knew who we were because we'd been up and down every street, waking them up on Saturday mornings. And we knew all their dogs too. So anyway, on Memorial Day, we put on our uniforms, and by uniforms I mean black shoes, white socks, black pants, white shirts, red ascots, black berets, and we marched down this very street, getting from the VFW on 1st Street to here. That was no small task. Shoot, most of us weren't even teenagers yet. But we made it, and we were bursting with pride. Once the novelty of the little kids from Watkins Glen wore off, we struggled. Our parents were perfectly happy to see us occupied. It was good for us. It was patriotic. It kept us off the street. And we did provide a small amount of pageantry for local parades and such. But by 1969, we had sunk to last place in the state. And that was when state championships really meant something. A spectator shouted, "Get him off the field!" And a judge wrote, "What are you doing here?" We scored a 20.33.
Not
Yeah.
that any of us remember that.
No. I had to look it up. No, it was demoralizing. So our parents put their heads together. If we're going to have a drum corps, we should do it right. So we started a feeder corps, the Pages, and we got some professional help. Our popular band director, Ed Lindsay, came on to teach music. Tons of kids joined because of Mr. Lindsay got involved. Ed, I know you're here. Where are you? Yeah, all right. Yeah. Tremendous. Okay, and they looked to the other end of Seneca Lake to hire Hardy Carrasas to teach us how to march. Hardy whipped us into shape, literally. He yelled and screamed and whacked our rear ends with his stick. We didn't know it, but over the course of that winter of 1971, we got good. We hit the road for our first show, actually 2 shows on the same day, July 2nd. Still 1971 we're talking here. The first show's results were a little confused, but that night in Endicott, standing on the field at retreat, we listened to the results being read one by one. I swear you could hear everyone's heart beating out of their chest as the announcer ran them down. In 7th place, in 6th place, and on. When we realized we had won, the joy was overwhelming, unforgettable. Well, there were a lot more of those nights. In fact, there were 82 of them. 82 first places over the next 10 years. That's better than 1/3 of all the shows we entered. Later that summer, we ventured to Lynn, Massachusetts, an overnighter. We performed into the prelims and we snuck into the finals by less than a point and moved up to 3rd place in the finals of the World Open Class B Championship, and we were thrilled. When we came home, another surprise was in store. It seemed the whole town turned out to Lafayette Park to welcome us. We're talking red carpets, rose petals, and of course, cake and ice cream. Later that summer, we got our first title, Penn York Class B. In 1972, we went back to the World Open in Class B and won the championship. Class B, you might say, so what? Well, it was a national championship with stiff competition, and it was ours. To us, it was the equivalent of the Super Bowl, and it was another unforgettable moment. In 1973, we took our first tour, 10 days to North Tonawanda, Butler, Pennsylvania, and Marion, Ohio. We brought 2 national Class A titles back to Watkins Glen, the U.S. Open, the American International Open, and a few weeks later, we added the Penn York Class A title. 3 in one summer, yeah. It was an amazing, almost unbelievable feeling to be tops in our class. And the Pages got their first title also at the Penn York. In 1974, we got our first taste of open class competition, DCI, going head-to-head with the really big corps at the Drum Corps International Championship in Ithaca at Chilcott Field in Cornell. Shucks, we might not have even gone to the darn thing if it weren't so close by. We were more or less oblivious to this sort of stuff. We managed 24th place in a huge field of corps. We didn't really know it, but that qualified us as an associate member. Turned out that was a big deal. It qualified us for major contests the next season. We held that status for 5 years, a record at the time. It was 1975. On July 19th, 6 years to the day after that ignominious last place, we got our state championship. That night, nearly every Squire hugged and or kissed every other Squire in that dusty parking lot outside Aquinas Stadium in Rochester. After that high point, it was back on the road. 4th place at DCI East in Lowell, Mass. High finalist placings in open class in Marion and Butler, nipping at the heels of finalist contenders. Then the DCI Championship in Philadelphia at that oh-so-close 13th place. Just how close was it?
6/10 of a point.
Yeah, 6/10. Drum Corps immortality evaded us that night, but we had a lot to be proud of. As Judge Dave Richards proclaimed, they're not the little kids from Watkins Glen anymore. The 70s continued. We stayed in contention with high placings at major contests. DCI North in Pontiac, Michigan. DCI East, Allentown, Pennsylvania. Again, the World Open, this time in open class. The US Open and the American International Open. 3 more state championships. We maintained DCI associate status. Little Watkins Glen made its mark on the drum corps world. By the late 70s, the Squires were exhausting our resources. The Corps almost folded in 1980, but dogged determined by Dennis Morris, a small group of stalwarts, and a crop of new members carried on. We competed in Class A. Momentum from that summer brought us new membership, and we were clawing our way back into contention in 1981. We started making the finals again. Drum Corps East, Ithaca, the US Open, the American International Open. Things were looking up, but keeping the Corps going after that was a bridge too far. The new DCI model of the perpetual tour was something Watkins Glen just couldn't sustain. I said earlier that drum corps immortality evaded us on a Saturday in August of 1975. Well, look around you, you Squires. We're still here. Our achievements stand. And what we experienced during our glorious days in the sun and glorious nights under the lights, that Camelot moment, we carry with us and give to our children and the generations that follow. We will never be forgotten. Raw meat.
And this man can tell you what we got in General Effect Bugles in Hornell, New York on July 12, 1973. His memory is amazing, and his book, Echoes in the Valley, is something else. And what he didn't tell you is, I don't know how long he's been at it, but he's got a totally rewritten version that is going to come out in digital form with a lot more pictures, clippings, articles, and you'll keep everybody posted through the Patty Skimmett's news network. But it is a chronicle of an amazing time in this community. But you know what? None of it would have happened without the tremendous, unbelievable level of support we got from this tiny community. And some of those folks in this front row. From the early carpools, before we got the yellow banana boats, to the board members, bus drivers, chaperones, Smokey Joe and Screwy Louie and all those bus drivers at the wheel, whatever needed to be done. Oh, race cars this time, that's nice. Whatever needed to be done, a ready group of adults pitched in. And for some of those adults, the Squires became a way of life. They had more fun than we did on trips. It became a social circle, and for some families, it was total immersion. Former drum major Barb Cullen Chapman knows that family and community story well. Barbara?
Hello, everybody. So he says I have to hug the mic.
Hug the mic.
Robert, is it okay if I hug the mic?
Hug the mic.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. Community and family. Those are my first thoughts when I think of the Squires. There is a very unique DNA with the Squires Drum Corps family. A DNA that is developed over many years and many experiences, and is more than just the marching members, but the community at large. Grandparents, neighbors, teachers, community leaders all played a part in our Drum Corps family. The community, whether they had a marching member of their own in the family or not, were bus drivers, baked cookies for the ice cream socials, helped with fundraising, attended performances both at home and on the road. We could always count on a contingent of hometown folks at our events. Of course, our parents were central to that. So those of us that lived in the country understand carpooling. So on the east side of the lake, if you needed a ride to practice or to event, you got to hold the McBrides, the Hulls, or the Wickhams. On the west side of the lake, if you needed a ride, you called the Conklins, the Millers, the Cullens, or the Varners. The McBrides, the Matthews, Betty Skimmets, and Jeanette and Bill Wickham, just to name a few, opened their homes to our marching members and gave them room and board. I'm so pleased. Carol Franzese is here today. My mom's here today. I vividly remember the countless hours that you two spent sewing those sashes. As a matter of fact, I clearly remember all the sashes and material all over my house. And I think it was several days before we could actually use the dining room table for meals. In our small way, the Squires alumni is announcing financial donations to 3 Schuyler County agencies that have a direct connection to the Squires. It's our way of giving back to the community that supported us for so many years. The first, Elmo Royce Youth Fund. This fund was instrumental in helping individual members offset the costs of tours and traveling. Elmo was a local businessman that was known for his generosity. My family were friends with Elmo. We used to visit his store on Franklin Street, and he always had a drawer full of lollipops for any kid that would pop in. I know he would be so pleased that the youth fund he set up is still going strong and continues to support the youth of Schuyler County. The Squires alumni are so pleased to help continue his legacy. Second of all, we will be donating to the Schuyler County Historical Society. A year or so ago, the team from the Schuyler County Historical Society reached out to several Squires alumni and asked for their assistance in setting up an exhibit to celebrate the history of Drum and Bugle Corps in Schuyler County, focusing on the Squires and Pages. What a wonderful exhibit they developed. Their attention to detail was extraordinary. We thank them and hope that this donation helps to preserve all our Schuyler County history going forward. And third, and probably the most personal. We will be donating to the Sandy Franzese Black Career Center at the Watkins Glen Public Library. Sandy was a longtime member of the Squires, serving as drum major in the late 70s, and her untimely death rocked this community and rocked the Corps. We are honored to be able to contribute to the memory of her life. She is forever in our Squires family memory. In closing, I want to say, when we marched, it was for pride, celebration, and our community. I can speak for all of us. When we were on the field ready to compete, in stadiums across the country, from Manning Bowl in Boston, Massachusetts, to Mile High Stadium in Denver, there was not a better feeling of pride as when the stadium announcer said, from Watkins Glen, New York, the Squires.
As an alumni association, we don't really have much of a treasury. But when we did the fundraising for this monument that we thought might come up short to the point that a lot of us were pledging any money that we weren't going to get, we got an overwhelming amount of contributions. I ask you to take a moment and look at the back of this program. 80 names, I think Judd counted, folks that came up with a donation of $100 minimum or more. You do the math. We came up with a lot of extra money, so we said, what do we do with it? And we had a meeting at Barb's house, and we said, let's give it back to this community that gave it to us. So that's where the genesis of those donations came from, and we agreed unanimously without a moment's discussion as to where that extra money should go. So it's right back here in the community as our way of saying thank you for all that was done for us as kids. We have a lot of people here today. I'm pleased at this crowd and alumni, but also people from the community to recognize, and if I miss somebody, please forgive me. From the village board, we're going to hear from the acting mayor in a moment, but also hear trustee Lori DiNardo and Nan Woodworth, a Squires alum. And from the county, yeah, I'm going to introduce him in a Patty, always giving orders. Some things have not changed, my friends. Some things have not changed. Danny, you're a saint. From the Historical Society, Glenda Gebhardt, Gene Gardner, thank you. You have reawakened our history in our community and given us the impetus to push forward and do this. It's wonderful that we could share with a wider community. Representing the Schuyler County Legislature, who had to give us the okay to have this place on hallowed ground, I'd like to recognize actually my cousin, Mark Rondinero, who is here. Did not march despite my best efforts. And here to say a few words is legislator Jim Howell, who actually found an interesting proclamation in the archives. Jim?
Good afternoon, everyone. How am I doing? Good afternoon, everyone. And better? Our Lord has blessed us with a perfect day today for this occasion. I was honored when asked by Chairman Blowers, who's vacationing abroad, to provide a few remarks on behalf of the county legislature. You know, every community has pillars that provide significance, distinction, and recognition from other communities. For example, Watkins Glen has the state park, the racetrack, the Harbor Hotel, and wineries, among others. The dictionary describes a pillar as a firm, upright column intended to support a structure in stability and strength, such as the pillars of a church or a state house. You, the members of the Squires, were a portable, ornamental pillar of our community as you marched in columns in your magnificent uniforms representing your community and your families. We gather here today to show our appreciation for your accomplishments through the unveiling of this much deserving monument. Your recognition is extended beyond the village of Watkins Glen following the amazing accomplishments of 1973. From the White House, Washington, D.C., dear friends, it was with special pleasure that I learned from Congressman Jack Terry that the Squires were winners of the World Open Junior Drum and Bugle Corps competition. I know that everyone in your community must be especially proud of the great spirit and excellence that brought your corps this success. With my congratulations and best wishes to you and all the members of the Squires, sincerely, Richard M. Nixon, President of the United States. Additionally, via Western Union telegram from Albany, New York, I wish it were possible for me to be with you tonight to hear again the superb music of the Squires Junior Drum and Bugle Corps of Watkins Glen. The well-earned reputation of the Corps is due in no small part to the enthusiasm and spirit of the members and their parents, as well as the talent and hard work of the performers. My heartiest congratulations and warmest personal greetings to all gathered for this happy occasion. Please extend my best wishes for the continued success to the Corps. Sincerely, Governor Nelson A. Rockefeller. Governor Rockefeller loved Watkins Glen. He was here on a few occasions and he really enjoyed our community. Thirdly, from the office of the Mayor of Watkins Glen, for outstanding achievements and overwhelming success as both superior performers and distinguished representatives of our community, the citizens of Watkins Glen do wish to honor the Squires Drum and Bugle Corps as an expression of our appreciation for their contribution to this community. I, as mayor, do therefore proclaim the week of August 13th through August 19th, 1973, the week of the Squires, during which they shall be duly honored by the citizens of Watkins Glen as the United States champion. Signed, William P. Simeol, Mayor. Wonderful, wonderful man. And lastly, from the regular meeting of the Schuyler County Legislature, August 13th, 1973, Resolution number 184 on motion by District 2 Legislator John Genung, second from Up and Dix, seconded by District 1 Legislator David Allen from Mecklenburg, and passed unanimously 8-0. Be it resolved that the Schuyler County Legislature proclaim this week Squires Week in recognition of the Squires Junior Drum and Bugle Corps winning the American International Open and the U.S. Open, both Class A competitions. Signed, Rexford Richards, Chair of the Legislature, Town of Catherine. So how fitting it was when the Honorable Judge Dennis J. Morris approached our body earlier this year, seeking permission to position a monument at the location it rests upon today. The request was immediately embraced by the full legislature to recognize the accomplishments of the Squires, a true pillar to our community, from this day forward in the name of our Lord and Savior in perpetuity. Amen, and thank you very much.
Well, that was a fun walk down memory lane with some of those names. 73 was a pretty good year. Yeah. All right, Patty, I would now like to introduce the acting mayor of Watkins Glen, New York, a former Squire, Louis Parazzini.
Great turnout. Glad everybody was able to make it today. We had a beautiful day. I came unprepared for this, only because I started sitting down and writing things, and I said this has to come from the heart. Being a fellow Squire, as Judd mentioned, we weren't even teenagers. Joe Franzese, my cousin Frank, some other ones. We were 11 years old when we started this, or joined the Squires, 11 years old. So to have something prepared and to realize that 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, you really didn't know what it was to be proud, or actually the pride that was involved in this. But come full circle, and 50 years, give or take, and me being in the position as deputy mayor in the village of Watkins Glen, and I think I can speak for Nan and Lori, there is no bigger honor or privilege than to be here today in front of all these Squires and other individuals to say we have the state park, we have the lake, we have Watkins Glen International. They bring in tourists, but the Squires brought in pride to Watkins Glen. So thank you all, and we'll see you this afternoon.
Another thank you to give out to another Squires alum, the work on the program and the certificates. Thank you, Fred Wickham, and Canasta Designs. Nice touch. We got the drum major starting with Phil Simeo all the way through Ted Pless, who was the final drum major in that last iteration of the Squires. I want to make sure I haven't missed anything here. Okay, down to business. Founders families. We'd like to have you come forward now and help us with the unveiling. The founders families, Isleys, Calhouns, if any of the Ailings are here. Vanna and Vanna Jr. will assist. And as they come forward, there's another family that we have to recognize while we're gathered here, and that's a family that gave so much to the Squires in the later years, Bill and Jeanette Wickham. Not only did they supply us with a bunch of members, they opened their home and their hearts to this drum corps and got us through those wonder years of the mid-70s. Bill and Jeanette were a special chapter in this drum corps' history. Uncle Chuck's name may have been on the founding documents, but it didn't happen without Aunt Betty's consent, I believe.
Yeah. So touch
All right,
the front
pull that
and
baby.
Pull it back this way, okay?
Ready?
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
We would like the founder families to come
I need you to come behind here.
behind the monument. We've got a surprise for you.
Surprise!
Oh my goodness, isn't this neat? It's a picture of Carl and Vern and Chuck
On the back of this monument,
on the back of this monument.
the
with
founding, the
Squires.
core group worked on the front, and then we met a final time at Barb and Bob's.
And it says 3 men with a vision that changed the lives of hundreds of young men and women, and it did.
This is Paul Allen. I think this is Chuck because of the hair.
Yeah, that's Chuck.
I thought maybe they split us.